Hi there, my name is Ingo Leusbrock. I'm working for AEE INTEC in Gleisdorf, Austria. Thanks a lot for checking in on my presentation that will be part of the Smart Energy Systems conference next week in Aalborg. This presentation will be part of the special session on the IEA DHC TS5 project. Together there with an international team, we are working on the transformation of district heating systems towards a modernized, sustainable systems. I will tell you a bit about some parts of the results we've been working on in the last couple of years. I hope you will enjoy the presentation. I'm starting off here with a picture with a photo of a tree, a walnut tree in the background, a large one, and some saplings in the foreground. I will tell you later on in the presentation why this photo is also linked to district heating and cooling. Like I said, we are working on the transformation on the district heating systems and cooling systems, and together with an international team, we've been working on that in the last couple of years, and we are coming now to a conclusion of that project, and this means we've got some things to show off and more things to show to you in the future. Now, let's get started. This gives you an overview of how the TS5 is structured to give you some ideas. In the actual session, there will be an introduction on the TS5 in larger detail, just to get you now through the video what we've got as different subtasks within the TS5. We've got one focusing on renewable technologies, so everything from heat pumps up to geothermal. We discussed there how the different countries are doing, information on the technologies and so on. We also focus on the non-technical framework, on stakeholder integration, on business model, and all these things that are non-technical but yes, vital for us. We also focus on how to get renewables into the larger system, technical, non-technical things here as well. And what I will be talking about today is largely subtask B, focusing on actually the transformation process from different point of views. Now let's continue. We see transformation processes as a long-term process with multiple levels, and we've concluded within the project that it is vital to really combine technical as well as non-technical approaches and solutions in the process, while it's really important to also discuss and talk with all these stakeholders in the process. How we came to that conclusion is we looked at different case studies, international case studies. We tried to identify what the bottlenecks, challenges, and key enablers were in the transformation processes, and which steps and interventions were done to really make a step forward. Like I said, it's a long-term process, so not all of the systems we investigate and all the case studies are concluded, but we looked at the steps they have been already taken and analyzed them. So based on these conclusions from the case studies, we try to define something like a guideline, like a checklist for how you can do the transformation process. And we also checked this transformation guideline with some pilot studies to get some information on information that might be missing till now and what we still have to add. We had in total 7 larger case studies that we investigated, plus a couple of smaller ones. We looked specifically for information on basically every aspect of such a transformation process. So we looked at instance for what was the goal, what was the timeline, what were the things going on, what was going well, where were the problems, and so on. And we looked at these different aspects for these 7 case studies that you can see here on the left-hand side from all over Europe in a more detail, plus some additional ones, smaller ones, where we just had bits and pieces, but still important bits and pieces that we used for our later conclusions. To give you just an example what we did in there, here I focus on the example of Lviv in the Ukraine. We checked there how the system is behaving, how large it is. So Lviv is one of the larger cities in the Ukraine, located in the west of this country, and it has got an outdated district heating systems, respectively separated one in the city all over the town, and the heat supply is currently largely done by major CHP, gas CHP installations with some smaller units, fossil fuel-based units as a support. So what we did now in the process over there, we analyzed the steps. So they did an analysis of the gas consumption, what is happening on a daily basis. They tried to come up with something like a plan how they can reduce that over time in different steps. Then they looked at what might be potential solutions of spots to really go for district heating, to densify the systems, or to go for another solutions. And based on that, they came down with an actual plan how they can implement the different measures. During the process, they had to look at different things that they were not aware of so far, meaning data acquisition, spatial energy planning, capacity building, stakeholder integration, and basically how to do good strategic planning in relation also to short-term measures that were necessary to be done in the last couple of years in Lviv because of the war going on. Now, this was the foundation for us to proceed with our analysis. So now I'm coming back to the picture of this tree in the background and the saplings in the foreground. So to make it really happen that a sapling like the ones in the front really can grow towards a larger healthy tree like in the background, there are different things really necessary. And most of these things are not directly on the surface, but located in the background, in the soil in this case, or even beyond what the tree actually can do on its own, respectively, what the surrounding can offer. So you might have all these assets that you can see, all this infrastructure available, but underneath there are different processes, different things that have to be aligned to really make a transformation happening. So you can look at different technical aspects like monitoring and operation, like smart control and strategic planning. But on the other hand, you also have to think about there are non-technical things that are important to really let your system grow into a healthy, sustainable one. So you have to think about the stakeholders, you have to think about the business model that are necessary, and also you have to check about the financing. Beyond that, there are things that are in the circle of concern for the district heating operator, but are not really influenceable by them. So it can be down to legislation, it can be down to public perception and so on, but these are nevertheless things that you have to tackle, you have to address during your transformation process. You might not change them all, but you at least have to be aware of them. So what we did in the TS5 is we looked at now non-technical challenges that we face, try to find some good advice, simple advice on how you can approach them, respectively refer to different case studies or other projects that can give you a clue on how to continue. We did the same also for the technical side. I guess that's something you're more familiar with, from the supply to the distribution, customer, systemic and organizational things. And what we did there as a final one, we came up with an overview of these challenges and try to give some quick guides how to tackle these things. Now, this leads us to the main part that we've been working on, is how to do a transformation. So the objective of a transformation plan for a district heating system can be described with the 3 bullets mentioned here. You have to think about the conversion over time, what is done technically, how you can actually do the whole thing till a certain date and time, and also you have to do the whole transformation while being economically viable and, of course, supplying your customers all the time. So what we did now for this guideline within the TS5, we cannot cover such a process in all details because there are too many nuances, too many details per system that you have to think of. So what we try to aim for is to give DHC operators an orientation, what they can do in terms of organization and methods. We try to give an idea on the steps and prerequisites. I will talk about that in a minute, a bit more in detail, and also provide them just with a checklist. Okay, please think of this, think of that when you do this and that and that. So what we came up with something like a stepwise approach. So what you can think of is not really rocket science, but it's still important to really think about the details that you have in such a transformation plan that you have to think of. So starting off your whole transformation, you should think about setting your goals and a long-term vision. This has to be done in relation to, e.g., your municipal heat planning. I come back to that in a second, but also to your company strategy. What do you want to do in which time frame? Then you go down to analyzing and evaluating everything that's around. What's your status quo? How do you want to grow in future? What has to be modernized? And based on that, you select a pathway. This is what we have in mind in total. And based on this, you go towards really planning all these individual measures. Of course, you have to think about that as an iterative process. So you go back in time to your previous steps and think about, hey, is this actually still something that we can do? Has something changed, and so on? This is the overall flow that you can think of or can structure everything. This needs nevertheless to be supported by at least a couple of additional things. So you have to really be thinking about how you get in all your stakeholders in the discussion. That can be your customers, that can be public authorities, that can be the cities, or whoever else might be important for your process. Another vital aspect is getting all the data sorted out that you need for such a process. I think you are familiar with that problem, but this is absolutely essential if you want to do all these things that I'm talking about. So having these data available, may it be operational, may it be a network plan, may it be results from previous projects or feasibility studies, this is something you have to sort out really in the beginning. And this is something that I think comes back from every case study we looked at. Data, getting good data, sharing that data is vital, especially in the beginning. Alignment of these things with a company strategy is also important. So you have to check what your overall vision of a company is, what your goals are, and relate that to your business field, the district heating system. So this is something important and has to be done also early on. What's also important is that you have for such a transformation plan a really dedicated team with the resources and the expertise to really go forward and do these things. This is absolutely vital to have. Then a point I've been touching upon earlier, municipal heat planning. Why is this alignment especially necessary? Now, there's a lot of discussion going on both items, and sometimes in this discussion they are mixed up. They are interlinked for sure, but they're two different sides of the coin. So the transformation plan is really focusing on the DHC system only, and it's also the item that the operators, the owners, have to be pushing forward. Municipal heat planning is on a municipal level, so you have to think about that. There you also include local energy transition ideas, climate goals, and so on. And it also thinks about beyond the district heating system. So municipal heat planning does not only include the DHC system, but also has to think about decentralized solutions like microgrids and so on, and individual options like heat pumps, like biomass boilers, and so on and so on. Nevertheless, both of these processes have to be aligned, because this really ensures that you can use combined forces, have the synergies, you can talk to the authorities, make things smarter and smoother, but also you can talk to the citizens and customers easier and, for example, say, okay, we're going to extend our systems and we're going to be available for you in a couple of years. And this really minimizes risk, like stranded assets, like you have gotten enough customers and so on. So this alignment is something that is really necessary to have. Okay, moving a bit forward to the analysis and evaluation of the roadmap development, this is something I guess is second nature to most of you, so I won't go that much into detail because this is something that you can hear about during the 2 days here in Aalborg in absolute detail on different aspects. So what you have to think about for this part is really thinking about what is happening, what is status quo, what are the things you have to do anyway to become modernized and decarbonized. But also you have to think about, hey, where are going to be supplying heat in the future? Where can I densify? Where are there more areas in my town where I can go to? And based on that, you select something like a pathway for the future. And this then leads to actual planning and actual implementations. How to distinguish them a bit in level of detail. The upper ones is something more focusing on, let's say, concept development, feasibility studies, while the lower one is more focusing on actually the basic and detailed engineering. Okay, this is a bit the conclusion of everything today. So I know this is just scratching on the surface. I can't give you that many details in this amount of time that I have available. I think it should be more like an appetizer of what you can still expect to come from us. So what we'll have later on as an output for you all is this analysis of the case studies. Then we've got this overview of the technical and non-technical challenges. And we also provide a guideline for you to use, to test, to apply, to modify in discussion with your DHC operators, respectively, what the DHC operators can use directly. Where can you find out more about all these things? This is something that we will be working on the next couple of weeks and months. We try to push the dissemination forward in Q4 2024 and Q1 2025. And there are going to be webinars and reports on all of that, what I've described right now, respectively, on all the other items of the TS5. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation a bit. It gives you a glimpse a bit on what we've been working on and what we try to make happen. So, and coming back to my picture of the tree, I think if you apply all these things to your tree, you make it also really to a shiny, nice example that you would like to put even into your living room. With that, I would like to close my presentation. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for checking out this video, and I hope I see you in person next week on the conference. If not, drop me a mail or whatsoever later on. If you want to know more about this, my contact details are here on that slide, so just drop me a mail and so on. Again, thanks for joining in, and see you around. Take care.